Welcome back to the channel, The Real Ish. All right, for this video right here, as the title suggests, we are going to be talking about horror movies where there were no survivors. Like none, zero. All right, so horror movies with no survivors. All right, so it brought me to a list of movies from movieweb.com. There's 13 of them, and we're gonna talk about them. I'm gonna try to get through this, and yeah, so let's jump right into it. All right, so number 13 is a movie Quarantine from 2008. All right, it says it's a found footage horror film. It follows a woman named Angela and her cameraman Scott as they seek to capture footage for a reality show about firefighters. On a late night call, they discover an outbreak at the scene that threatened their lives. Well, as a qualifier to be on this list, let's just say that nobody survives this deadly outbreak. All right, I remember seeing Quarantine. I think it was a pretty good movie. Yeah, so that's number 13. Number 12 is Cabin Fever from 2002. All right, it says horror comedy. It is an amazing mixture of genres. I just don't believe in horror comedy. But anyway, it says the contradicting reactions of gut-wrenching screams and hysterical laughter are not for everyone. However, 2002's Cabin Fever is worth it, as audiences know none of the characters survive. But the ride that gets us there is why this film should be on a must-watch list for those who haven't seen it. The film follows a group of young students who are fighting against a flesh-eating disease that has infected their water supply. So that's number 12, Cabin Fever. No one survived in this movie. All right. Jumping into number 11 from 2003, House of a Thousand Corpses. It says they call this a gory slasher horror film. It said it will leave your jaw on the floor. Two couples find themselves stranded at the door of the House of a Thousand Corpses, a place that houses a deranged family that is hell-bent on brutally adding more and more bodies to their collection. So kind of like a cult classic is born, so something like that. Yeah. Number 10 from 2004, Dawn of the Dead. So of course the zombie apocalypse will leave no survivors. 2004's Dawn of the Dead follows the classic apocalyptic horror storyline. A woman named Anna finds out that her entire neighborhood has been overrun by the undead. She finds a group of survivors to join, and they all band together to try and make it through the new world. Well, no matter how prepared someone might think they are for something like this, the unpredictable world of The Walking Dead left this group without a single survivor. So that's number 10, Dawn of the Dead. All right, so number 9, the Chernobyl Diaries from 2012. Set in Ghost Town in Ukraine, a group of American tourists decide to explore the abandoned site located close to where the 1986 disaster occurred. All right, it says this movie chronicles the unspeakable horrors and terror the young explorers experienced when they became stranded at the abandoned location. The group makes the chilling discovery that they are not alone and are stalked by horrific mutant creatures that will stop at nothing to see the dead. Naturally, the mutants succeed. So that's another one where no one survived. I remember seeing this movie years ago. It was pretty good. Number 8, Final Destination 5 from 2011. Audiences should know by now that any installment in the Final Destination franchise will rack up a pretty high body count, seeing as the characters are literally being hunted by death manifested. In Final Destination 5, a young man heading to a corporate retreat has a premonition that the bridge that they are traveling across is going to collapse, and despite trying to save the lives of his co-workers, he and his ex are the only ones to survive. The pair quickly learn that death will not be easily deterred, and they find themselves fighting for their lives and ultimately losing. So yes, I didn't realize that Final Destination 5 had no survivors. I honestly don't know if I even like that one. They made so many of them I can't keep up now. So jumping in at number 7, Night of the Living Dead from 1968. Night of the Living Dead is a horror classic and that cannot be missed, especially on this list. This isolated horror film is the best that the zombie subgenre has to offer. In the picture, we follow a group of people who hide inside an abandoned house when the surviving graveyard comes to life. surrounding graveyard comes to life as bodies slowly start to emerge from the ground. The group is forced to fight and fend off any intruders. At some point, there is nothing else they can do as the zombies descend on the house. All right, so that's Night of the Living Dead for 1968. Moving on to number 6, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, 2006. I'm not a great fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it says serving as a prequel to the 70s horror classic, The Texas Chainsaw, the beginning is set 4 years before the events of the original groundbreaking film, and centers on a group of couples who set out cross-country road trip for the one last adventure before the men are shipped off to serve in Vietnam War. While traveling through rural Texas, the young group is targeted by a deranged sheriff and ends up on the doorstep of a young Leatherface who is honing his sinister skill set. So no survivors in that one, all right? Number 5, another movie that I don't like at all is Cabin in the Woods. When Dana, Kurt, Jules, Marty, and Holden go off for a fun, relaxing vacation, the cabin that they're staying in holds more secrets than they could ever anticipate. And Cabin in the Woods is yet another zombie film that takes the lives of our beloved protagonist. However, this delightfully over-the-top horror comedy is full of exciting twists and turns that make zombies not the only threat to their lives. I've talked about this movie once or so before on this channel, and I don't have anything good to say about it. So that's number 5. Number 4, oh my goodness, Hereditary. Yet another movie I discussed on the channel before for not being a great movie. Hereditary, modern day films are hit and miss. However, you know what, I'm not really even going to go through this whole thing with Hereditary. We're just going to leave it at that. Hereditary, number 4, no survivors. Moving on. Number 3, 2008, Cloverfield. Creature flicks are some of the best to come from the horror film genre. The creativity it takes to develop a terrifying creature to wreak havoc, meant to send chills down the audience's spine, is a tall order. In 2008, Cloverfield did that, and then some. Even if no one survived, this found footage film will have moviegoers shaking in their boots as a group of friends document the horrific events that unfold in their city of New York. All right, that's number 3. Number 2, The Blair Witch Project. I'm not going over this because this movie is not a good movie, and so we'll just leave it at that. Number 2, The Blair Witch Project has no survivors. All right. Okay, so this is something that was brought to my attention right after I finished recording this video. Okay, so how would the Blair Witch Project be on this same list for having no survivors when I just did a video on horror movies with no kills? It was on that list also. It can't be on both. Either it has kills or it doesn't. Either they have survivors or they don't. I'm confused. And then number 1, The Thing for 1982. Remote, isolated, and desolate settings are the perfect backing image for a horror movie. 1982's The Thing follows a group of American researchers at their base in Antarctica. When the group takes in what appears to be a dog inside of the base, they soon discover a creature that can shapeshift. This nightmare scenario had the entire group fighting for their lives until the creature brings each and every one of them down. That's crazy. Yeah. That shape-shifting, that's real. That's a whole nother story and a whole nother topic. All right, so that was it. I don't want this video to feel like it was rushed, but that's all 13 movies. All right, so there's obviously other movies that, you see right here on the screen that were not added, but there are more movies that has no survivors, but these are the ones I talked about. You see all the ones right here, but that's the ones I chose to talk about. And I just wanted to talk about it since the last video I talked about horror movies with no kills. So this is a horror movie with no survivors. All right, there's probably more out there, but this is just the one site I came up with from movieweb.com. If you know any more, comment your thoughts on things below. Stay tuned for the next video because I'm going to be talking about a few horror movies that I saw that just, I'll give my opinion on them. All right, so hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and thank you all for watching. God bless, and I will see you guys in my next video. All right.